The only PGA Tour stop where players will hit from an actual ice rink? The RBC Canadian Open preview is right around the corner. All right. Well, hey, the 19th hole has a couple of familiar voices, but lacking a very important one. Host Jake is not here tonight, which means you get a couple of good analysts, but maybe subpar big chair guys. But you know what, Keith? The best part is there's so much good golf to talk about this week, and I know we're going to have a good show. How are 100%. You doing?
I'm doing good, man. A little bit under the weather, but it's been such a weird like May, June down here in Georgia, where it just seems to either be flooding, like raining, or a gazillion degrees. And there's like no in between. It's either like 100 degrees and as humid as I can remember it, or it is just pouring. So I think that's playing a little bit of a factor. And then, of course, the World Cup is coming up, including to Atlanta, and Atlanta being just Atlanta is waiting last minute to finish a lot of this construction and stuff. So like my commute to work this morning was not very nice, especially, once school's out, usually that's like the one time a year that you have like that 2-3 months where the commute's nothing. And that's not been the case. But other than that, I'm good. How about yourself, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Where'd you pick up your little cold from?
Probably with nieces and nephews. If I had to
Family. This is what Jake does. He does these really nice segues. Let me do this quick read for the IPT golf family. This is your chance to get chatting with in between and 19th hole analysts on golf betting tips, what's going on tours across the world. The free membership gives you access to chats, memorabilia, giveaway contests, but the upgraded membership for $3.99 a month or $36 for the full year includes access to not only golf, but also the football family and the racing family and the entertainment family. There's all kinds of good stuff on here. So as you are listening to the 19th hole or any of your other in-between media productions, make sure you subscribe. We love to hear from the fans. And of course, we're going to continue talking about all the good stuff in the golf world. So let me ask you this. I got a few different places to start. I suppose I got to hit the news Niblick, but I got 3 big topics. But before I do that, Keith, I got to tell you, I broke my 3rd TaylorMade driver this weekend. This was the most horrific one. I put a big 2-inch crater right in the middle of my Stealth 1. And I am really hoping that I get a free QI 4D or something out of this.
You should. Like that's something that if we're gonna spend $700-800 on drivers, which it's just gotten outrageous what they charge for clubs. I bought a wedge not too long ago and it was like $190. I was like, or this is really where we're at now.
It is.
And
at least can't ever just buy one wedge. You always need you need the set.
Exactly. So now you're talking like $600-700. Yeah,
exactly.
To get a new set of wedges. It's insane. I miss the days of being on staff. That is for sure. Free clubs were a lot better than paying for clubs. But if you're out there, Callaway, hit me up. But they should send you some. Did you reach out to them initially? Do you normally go through your club? How do you do that?
I did. So the face on my Stealth 1 was starting to delaminate last year. I sent it in, warranty claim this year. They gave me a very generous 30% off coupon to buy a new TaylorMade driver through their site, which, when you do I'm looking at a QI 4D low spin with a $350 shaft in it. I mean, that's $1,000 price tag pretty quickly. So my club is gonna do me a solid on this one and try to figure it out, because that was when the face was delaminating. I hit 3 balls in a warm-up this weekend at one of the local resort courses, and the 3rd one went about 10 yards, and I looked down and there's almost a hole in the middle of the face and the face is hanging off. So yeah, it is outrageous, but you start to like, that's to me, like the driver is the most important club in the bag for my game. And I can't be skimping there. So hoping to get something.
Though, man.
They should. The TaylorMade's pretty good about it. The whole product quality issues they've been having. They're trying to keep that under wraps and do customers a solid. So they should hook me up. But let's do this. I'm going to spin up the news Niblick, and we'll get into the stories in golf. JT Poston, the Postman, gets it done at Jack's Place at the Memorial Muirfield Village. Pretty much an unlikely hero. I mean, I saw plenty about JT's form coming in, and I like JT Poston. I think he's got a fun game, and that guy can fill it up at certain times, but didn't have a top 20 really since the RSM Classic in the fall. Missed about half of his cuts during that time. And comes in and tried to run away with it, then tried to give it away, and then got it done in a playoff over Ryan Gerard. Did you catch any of the Memorial this weekend?
Oh, yeah, because similar to Alex Smalley at the PGA Championship, I had Ryan Gerard at 95 to 1 to win. So, yeah, it was just pain, nothing but pain.
His time is going to come. His time is going to come.
A rough stretch though with outrights this year. I mean, like I really have. I've done so well with like top 5, top 10, top 20 plays, but man, if it is an outright play, all hell's going to break loose before the end of it. And when he missed that short one, I'm just like, of course, that's also how you're going to lose, is by missing a putt that, you know, as a professional, they should make. It is what it is. I'm sure that was nerves. I am happy for Poston because he's a guy that, you know, I follow for forever. I think it's amazing when these guys make a career out of being a PGA Tour player and they never really feel like they're, I don't want to say the word belong, but they're just never entrenched in their spot, right? It seems like every year they're kind of fighting to keep their card and keep it moving forward. So anytime a guy can get 2 free years, you know, what he's going to get after this, I'm very happy for him. And, you know, he's a good player.
He is a good player. I mean, he has touched the record books at times. He does have 4 PGA Tour wins. And to your point, you can't, the PGA Tour is moving to a place where you have to win to maintain relevance. The journeyman career, they're really trying to push that out. You can't Kevin Streelman your way through a PGA Tour career and just load up top 20s and get by. And so for someone like JT Poston, if he doesn't do this, and actually he has won every other year, the last 6 years, wow. His 3 wins have come every other season. And that's kind of what he has to do, to your point. He's got to get 2 free years because you need a lot of top 5s and top 10s to get an extra year of eligibility. And so if you're not going to do that, you better go find a way to win. But I love a guy like this who can go up and make 20 or 30 birdies.
He's a birdie machine.
It is. And I think, and he showed that at times, you know, back when he won the Wyndham Championship several years ago. But I love that he does it in a signature event. And it kind of like, it's just throwing this back in the PGA Tour's face of like the goal of getting Rory and Scotty and JT and whoever else to win Siggies every time. And then JT Poston's like, hold my beer. Right. Yeah.
Have you seen the full list of the signature winners? Because if I have
that was floating around.
Yeah, it's here it is. So we started pretty good with Colin, and then since then, Bridgman, Batia, Fitzpatrick, Cam Young, Reeton, Poston. So yeah, you got some of the best guys this season, obviously with Cam and Fitz, but man, I don't think those were the names that it was kind of like we joked about the Snedeker win, right? Like that this is probably not what the PGA Tour had envisioned for its secondary events.
No,
was, you know, a guy that's closer to the senior tour coming through with a dub, but this is what happens. And this is why I love golf is you can't predict the winner. You can have to make the field as big or as small as you want. At the end of the day, somebody's going to win and you have no control over who that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fun to have JTP take care of it. You talked about Ryan Gerard missing a short putt. I'm going to move on to Nelly Korda. Almost missed a career-defining short putt to pull herself back into a playoff, but she didn't. It was the perfect finish for someone that has really dominated the women's tour this year after going winless in 2025. Nelly Korda wins the U.S. Open at Riviera Country Club. Did you catch any of this one?
Oh, yeah. There's nothing I love more than primetime golf. It's the best because it's the time that my wife is most willing to watch, believe it or not. Golf is, at night. Don't get me wrong, she might be on her phone or iPad or whatever watching something, but at least through the second screen, she's paying attention to, what's on the TV.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think that the PGA Tour and golf in general should use the West Coast during the summer more to have these types of events, because there's nothing on TV against it. Like the NBA Finals are obviously finishing up, Stanley Cup is finishing up, and there's no new TV programming on like cable that's coming out right now. So like they should take this opportunity to be the lone standalone sport. So I love these majors that are, out west, or either just golf tournaments. And I said last year that she's got to figure it out because she's the most talented, person in the women's game. I think that's pretty safe to say, but it was really disappointing to see her have the season that she did. And she told me, shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. I got this, down here too. It's okay. Like, we're all human. Golf's a really hard game. But it's been remarkable to see just her absolutely dominate. There's been 2 events, I think, that she hadn't either finished like winner or runner up that she's teed up this year.
Yeah. Incredible. And I know Jake and I talked about it back when Cam Young was sort of ascending, and it was like, well, who's the best American player right now? And I said, well, it's not even close to being, it's Nelly, Korda, and then like literally everybody else. And you had a few people hanging around, and you just weren't sure. I mean, there was a point in time in, hitting the back 9 where she didn't have the lead, but she sunk a huge putt on 17 to give herself the 1-shot lead. In 18 at Riviera, I think we always hope that it produces more bogeys than it actually does. I find as we're watching the Genesis, we never really see these dramatic collapses on 18. We see birdies sometime, but oh my God, did she rip a drive on 18? I couldn't believe when they were showing, was she playing with Inji Chun?
I believe she's on the final round. Yeah.
She had like 168 yards in the green. I was like, how far does Nelly have? And it came in at like 145. And I was like, how far did she hit that? She hit that drive 290 yards up a 50-foot hill with the pressure on. Unbelievable.
That's that extra gear that the great ones have, that, and why distance always matters. We laugh that everybody hits it so far these days that, distance doesn't really, it always still matters. And that's just a reminder of it. I just also love when somebody's that was just her. She was so jacked because it's a tournament that she has said it's the biggest major that she wanted to win. The biggest tournament she wants to win, and to see her, hit that drive that far, which is just straight up adrenaline. And it's probably also why she almost missed that very short putt, was straight up adrenaline.
I mean, that putt was to the left from the club face. Like I said, but it's just nerve. And that it happens to literally the best players in the game. I'm very happy that went in. She picked the ball up out of the bottom of the hole, and we never have to think about it again. But here, just to kind of round this out, what do you make of the Grand Slam talk, where to win the Grand Slam with the ladies, it's 4 of the 5 majors, and the Super Slam is 5 of the 5 majors. So everyone's talking about Nelly has 2 chances now to get her career Grand Slam.
I don't hate that, actually. It's difficult because they have 5 majors, and, tennis, golf, like all the rest of them have 4. I think that actually kind of makes some sense. I can get behind that because it's unfair that the ladies, just because they have an extra major, not totally sure, what started that or what the reasoning behind it is. But, it's hard to win 2 majors, 3 majors, much less 4 or even 5. So I do like calling it, 4 is basically a career Grand Slam, and 5 is the Super Slam.
Yeah. Well, if some of the folks out there in the Twitter sphere have their way, the men will be dealing with the same issues. But this isn't even like, we've now talked about 2 huge stories in the golf world from the last 24 hours, but I would say neither of those, well, maybe Nelly, neither of those are really the biggest story of the day. Keith, how into golf's longest day are you?
I've always been into it as somebody who used to try to qualify for the U.S. Open. Yeah, that made a lot of good. But I love the fact that these, this is the only event where you're going to see these young phenom amateurs who are getting ready to, go play college golf somewhere. And then also professionals who are literally guys like that. The one in Canada, obviously, is the biggest, or at least star-studded field that I saw today, because the PGA Tour events there makes a ton of sense. And then you also have just like really good amateur players throughout the country who, for whatever reason, decided not to go professional, all converging, for just a handful of spots in U.S. Open, which I think is what makes the U.S. Open so great, is the fact that anybody with, what is it, I think a 3 handicap or less, can qualify and try to get in.
Yeah, I think it was, for a time, it was 1.4, I believe. But yes, you do not need, but yeah, something low that to be able to get in. And obviously, the guys that make it through the local qualifying into the final qualifying, you're now getting to the cream of the crop. But if you're not tracking what golf's longest day is, this is a consolidated qualifying schedule for the U.S. Open, in which we have, I think, about 12 final qualifying sites between Canada and the United States that will determine the last 43 spots for the U.S. Open. And there is over 700 players in this field between professionals and amateurs. And you're right, it's all the big names. And the way that things have shaken out recently, there's a lot more big names that find themselves in these things. And it's crazy to see how you have, like you said, a number of high school and college players. A lot of these kids could be guys that just had a good local round,
right?
Are now going to tee it up alongside Max Homa or Tony Finau or Steven Yeager. Or, I mean, guys just, some of these guys are major winners. Jason Duffner's out there. And it comes down every time. There are stories of these playoffs, right? So what happened in Canada? 8 for 3. In which Max Homa lips a par putt from 15 feet or whatever to lose out on both an alternate spot as well. You also had a situation where I believe, I didn't get the whole story. Adam Svensson was down to 2 people for a final spot. I didn't see where the site was, and his opponent made a putt to basically secure the final qualifying spot. Svensson went and picked up his coin, assuming that he had lost. And what that basically did was dropped him from the first alternate to the second alternate. And so, and this, I think this was in Canada.
It was.
And the point was, the first alternate is almost guaranteed to be the overall first alternate because of the strength of that field. And so he probably just cost himself a spot in the US Open by picking up his coin. Just totally out of his element. Unbelievable. I saw a story. I'm going to get this one wrong. I believe it was the qualifier in Palm Beach Gardens. There was a number of players that were playing the PGA Tour's America's event in Mexico City, I believe it was, that had all these guys were getting on a flight to go to Miami, and the flight got diverted for a medical emergency. So by the time they got to Miami, there was like an hour to spare to get to their tee times. And I didn't see whose name it was. One of the 7 guys made his tee time because he left his clubs at the airport, just got in the Uber and went to the course and said, "Give me something."
That's amazing.
I don't think he qualified, but like, this is the kind of stuff that's going on today, because this is a once in a lifetime chance, and it's all happening today. You probably saw Ben Coles just won the Corn Ferry event. I didn't see where this was, but he just won the Corn Ferry event. And he was running out of the clubhouse after kissing his kids and signing his scorecard, ran out of the clubhouse to catch his flight, and he qualified today.
That's amazing. And kudos to the Golf Channel, who has turned it into a TV event, which has made it a lot more fun. Because used to, it was literally just reporters, on location, letting people know, this and that. And then I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, they actually started showing golf, coverage of it, especially these playoffs. Like they'll just show the playoff in its entirety. And again, I remember one of the first things I noticed from this when it first really became a thing was just seeing the guys in shorts, right? Because you never saw that. And so to see, like JT Poston in shorts, it's like, what is going on? Oh my God, they look so much different. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Homo was carrying his own bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
so it is a cool bit. And like you said, the coverage has gotten really good. So the best place to follow it, just follow someone like Monday Q Info on social, because he's going to have all the stories. So with that, I think let's close out the news. We're going to we'll flip through the Caddie notes and talk about TPC Toronto. we go. TPC Toronto at Osprey. I got at Osprey Valley. This is in Caledon, Ontario, Canada. Now, here's the thing, Keith. I thought that we were on this like rota of 5 or 6 courses for the Canadian Open, and I was really surprised to see we're turning right back around to go to Toronto again. Did you catch this?
I thought the exact same thing when I started to do my research this weekend, that I was like, wait a minute, I thought that they had decided this was going to be like the Open Championship, but there's like 5, 6 venues, and they pretty much just rotate those, and then occasionally might pick, a not as often used rotation, but that's only going to be like once every 8 years. Did you get the reasoning behind it? Because I couldn't find why they're coming back to it.
Yes. This is because, people need to get paid. TPC Toronto wanted to rent some renovations courtesy of Ian Andrews in 2023 and said, hey, if we're going to do this, then we need to secure the broadcasting privileges for the next couple of years. And so they signed a 3-year deal, 25, 26, 27, to have the RBC Canadian Open here. Now, after that, I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, but the renovation, this is original Doug Carrick design, renovated by Ian Andrews in 2023. The renovation really did actually change this golf course quite a bit last year. We dropped it down to a par 70, lengthened it a little bit out to 7,400 yards. But really the goal was to kind of get away from what you see at a lot of the other Canadian venues that we've had the RBC Canadian Open at, where you have these pretty tight parkland style golf courses that are pretty demanding off the tee and feature a lot of trees and smaller greens. He's kind of shifted this to being wide open off the tee, huge rolling fairways, tons of space, and then forcing players into a second shot strategy. Yep. So you end up with bigger, more difficult green complexes, a lot of tightly mown runoffs, big, deep bunkering. And so this is probably going to feel a lot like, the comps that I pulled up for this were, like the Memorial Park redo that Brooks Koepka went through, like really featuring these kind of hit it as far as you want, but then really reward some of the long iron play and then the short game around the greens. I kind of feel like this is going to is it a birdie fest? It's probably not a birdie fest like the Amex is a birdie fest, where it's like who can make the most putts. But I do think the guys hitting the ball well are going to be able to navigate this pretty effectively, and we could see somebody touch 20 under. I don't think that's an issue.
I think it's possible. I think the one thing not to forget and makes it more difficult, rarely do you ever see a golf course start with a par 5, end with a par 5, and no par 5s in between. So it does make it difficult to, like par 5s are like the one hole that these guys, if they're playing well, like they expect a birdie every par 5 they play, right? Like that's just the way it is. Go back and look at Tiger's par 5 scoring at the majors. Like you're like, oh, wow, he won all these majors because he was the best on par 5s. So I think that makes it difficult. I think the guys that play, start on 10, will have the best opportunity for the low round. Seriously,
you're like a DFS savant there, saying, "Hey, if I can get those birdie streaks, I get the back-to-back par 5s guys teeing on 10."
I'm telling you, because it's tough. Like if you're going to go really low, you need to put together, a really hot stretch of holes, and it's hard when again you got 16 holes in between par 5s. And this is not a course that's 6 par 4s with 480 plus. 2 par 3s at 225. It's a weird venue because 45% of the approaches are going to come from 150 and in. I think it's like almost 25% are going to come from 125 and in, but yet you're still going to have a lot of long iron approaches as well. And the fact that Fox won here last year, I think kind of says all you need to know, that you want to be able to bomb it off the tee and be a good iron player. That's basically what Ryan Fox is.
Yeah, exactly. I think the one thing, if I were to layer in a couple of other stats, because that is really the profile that I went for, is I did load up on driving distance and then looking for guys that, have some good long iron play. Obviously, we talked a little bit about short grass scrambling. I also threw in sand saves in there. With bunkers being this big, you're just going to end up in them. And I think I was just having these vibes from Riviera when you see those deep greenside bunkers. You see, not everybody can play out of those. Yep. You need really good sand players to be able to get the ball close. And so maybe a spot there. And like I said, I did like to comp to Memorial Park and maybe Craig Ranch as being sort of like a bomb and then hit good iron shots. So I'm excited to kind of see who you're interested in, because at the end of the day, like I don't know. There's a lot of the really inspiring Canadian venues are not in this Rota. These are courses I'm not really excited to go and watch. I'm more in it for the fanfare and the hockey rink hole and all that. But I'm mostly hopeful that we can find an edge here and find some guys that are going to do well. So why don't we flip over? We'll run through the club twirls. I'll get the video right this time. Yeah, we'll talk about some of the picks. One sec. Well, I think the first question, Keith, is what do you think of the odds board starting us off at Tommy Fleetwood 11.5 to 1 as the shortest player on the board?
It's disgusting. Sam Burns has been playing great golf. I should never see Sam Burns in the teens to win an event. Like, that's just, it's like, what are we doing here? And we're degenerates, so we'll keep betting. We're not going to really fight this, but the one thing I would just tell people to be careful of is, more than anything, I think that what affects this event is the U.S. Opens next week. And I do wonder how many of the best players in the field even care about the result this week. Like, honestly, like if they're out there at all to win a golf tournament and instead just out there to be like, I want to get this part of my game sharp for the U.S. Open. And sometimes that really concerns me in these kind of events. Like, I think that there's guys in the field, like, we'll get into them in a few, but like Koepka, Lowry, who are having, down years, I think, for what they would have hoped, and I could see them, even with their pedigree and obviously being major champions and stuff, they could just use the win just for their confidence and stuff. But overall, I do wonder, is this a week you should load up on guys that, like last week with JT Poston, is it going to really be the people that are going to get the most out of this win, just in the sense of the 2 years on tour and all the stuff that comes in it, all the events you get into from winning it? Are those the people that, maybe we should be paying the most attention to?
I think maybe one of the questions to ask is, how much is participation driven by the fact that this golf tournament is, it's only 500 miles from Shinnecock. Like, this is, Toronto is, effectively a New York City suburb, so, in some people's minds. So, like, this, you're kind of keeping in the same part of the country. If this golf tournament, if the U.S. Open is at Los Angeles Country Club, I have a number of guys that are not interested in a 6-hour flight from Toronto to Los Angeles at the end of this thing. So I think you're right. I think it's probably holding a number of people in the event that maybe otherwise wouldn't be playing. You're attracting a few guys near the top that are looking to find something. But honestly, I don't remember the last time that we had a double-digit player leading the top of the board. We're so used to Scotty and Rory commanding these 3-1, 4-1, 5-1 prices. But then you look at this and say, well, these are all, elite, but not superstar players.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to pay 10-1 for them. And so I got the impression when we both turned in our cards and said, who are we going to run through this week? We skipped over the first 10 names and said, you know what? I want to start the conversation right out at 28-1 with Brooks Koepka, because of course he's been playing. He said he's been one of the best iron players on tour this year and been one of the worst putters. Why he can certainly go and take down anybody else ahead of him on this board. So why not just start your card in the 28, 30, 32-1 range? What do you like about Koepka this week?
Just that, again, major Koepka is in there somewhere. Like, it just is. And we're seeing parts of it with the way he's driving the golf ball, with the way his irons are going. The other big part, though, which I have to remind people, is he wasn't ever like this lights out putter that made everything, but when he needed to make putts, he seemed to always hole, especially those like 4 to 8 footers, whether it be for birdie or if it would be scrambling for a par, even in some of those U.S. Open wins, a bogey, right? Because sometimes a bogey is, the best option when you hit a bad shot. And I just think it would be huge for him to get a W going into Shinnecock where he's already won at. That golf course is built for Koepka. And I know that we've mentioned this on the show before, that he's like one spike putting week away from, I think, not only just winning an event, but like dominating it. Because not only has he not putted well, he's putted terribly in a majority of the events, like terribly.
Listen to these ranks. You have a Koepka in this field. Second in strokes gained approach. Second in proximity 150 plus, or fifth. Third in proximity 200 plus. Fifth in birdie or better percentage. Like he's hitting the ball. And by the way, his distance is way up off the tee. He's gaining consistently week to week off the tee. You're right. He is one spike putting week away. I love the way you phrase that, from just dominating a field. And if it is not this week, next week's not a bad spot for it. But it just question is like, does he actually have it in him to do that in this sort of second half of his career? So I really like Brooks this week. You're not going to really find a better iron player in the field that's putting it all together.
The putting thing too is really interesting. I was looking at this. So from 15 to 20 feet on tour this year, he's 19th. From 20 to 25 feet, he's 42nd. From 25 plus feet, he's 12th. From 10 feet and in, he's 156th. Explain that. Like it confuses me when a guy can putt so well until they get close to the hole. And you don't see it often, but like that's exactly what Koepka's doing right now, is he's actually putting really well until he gets close to the hole.
How much would you potentially attribute that to? I mean, personally, this is an anecdote that doesn't matter. When I made the switch from blade to mallet earlier in my playing time, that's what changed for me, was my ability to start to really hole putts from 15 to 35 feet. Closer in, I can't say there's necessarily a problem, but like, what if it did flip? He switched the mallet this season. Like maybe just closer in, it's not as comfortable.
No, that's definitely, I keep forgetting that he swapped putters, which is something that I'm glad he did. I actually wish he would go further all in if he's going to do it. Like I have a lab putter.
Zero torque. Yeah.
They're ugly. They are. It's one of the most hideous things I've ever put down, but man, can I roll the freaking rock since I put that thing in the bag, man. As long as you just get your hands out of it, rock them shoulders. Oh my God, ball rolls end over end. It always going where it's supposed to. And I think he would benefit from it. And I do think that Koepka is still there. Like, we ask, does he have it in him? You don't win the majors the way he did without having that in him. Yeah. I think it's all just about belief. He's just got to get back to believing that he is one of the best golfers in the world. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but it would not surprise me at Shinnecock if he is in contention or potentially wins it. And I definitely think next year you're going to have to look out for Koepka. Like, I think next year could be a big year for him. Yeah.
Well, another guy you said having kind of a down year, but is not immune to being at the top of the leaderboard, kind of immune to winning at this point. Shane Lowry, 3,400, another guy that, I like him just as much as I like anybody else ahead of him. It's kind of a similar story for Shane. What do you see there?
Yeah, it's just value. I mean, in this field with the names that we were talking about that are in the teens to win, or you can give me Shane Lowry at, 34 to 1. I just think Lowry is a better value. It would make sense for him to win this kind of event. This is the exact kind of event that Lowry seems to have won his entire career. And it is getting to a point where you are right that he needs to get a W, because it's been a minute. And to your point, he doesn't seem to win tournaments anymore. He's played very well at this event just in general, finished top 15, 3 of the last 5. So I think that it's a good spot for him. And again, anytime I'm getting, somebody at 34 to 1, who I think is got a better chance to winning the tournament than guys, half his odds, I'm always like, I'm betting it for value more than anything else.
Yeah, he certainly has the short game if he can get that short game to spike. And here again, you need to have some mastery around the greens with all those runoffs. Yeah, Shane certainly. I was a little disappointed in the way that he played Sunday at the Masters. After he talked a little bit of a big game of like, kind of, we'll see who can man up on Sunday, and then he most definitely did not. But yes, he is. His short game is in check. I do wonder if he's got, sort of the driving distance at this venue that really adds. You talk about like Ryan Fox really excelling here. Shane's kind of the opposite player of a Ryan Fox.
Yep.
But like you said, value. You take Shane over any of the guys ahead of him. Another guy in this range that I was just trying to get the current standing on his U.S. Open
He made
qualifier.
it, by the way.
He did make it. Okay,
he was in second at they had like 3 holes left, I think.
Okay, I thought that I read that they blew the horn. I didn't know if it was. I don't know if
they
it was
didn't finish
darkness or they didn't finish. I was going to try to check this. Keith Mitchell, 3,900 right now in DraftKings. I believe he drove the green on a par 4, and then the horn blew, so he was going to have an eagle putt whenever they resumed play. But he was right around making it into the U.S. Open. So obviously having some good vibes. Going back to last year here at Osprey Valley, he did finish 27th. And then Keith, yes, he missed the cut at CJ Cup, but he finished 5th at the Byron Nelson. Made the cut at the PGA, made a few cuts before that. He's been up and down this year, but he's not up and down approaching off the tee. You know, with Keith, it's always like, is he going to make putts or is he not going to make putts? And he's been driving the ball great this year. So I'm going to put him on a golf course where he's played reasonably well and something that lets him really free up. Going to have the good vibes coming in from making the U.S. Open. I like Keith this week, 3,900.
I love Keith Mitchell in any kind of event that, again, is putting an emphasis on driving the golf ball far and being a good long to middle iron player, which he is. Mitchell did 12 under. He shot 9 under, I guess, in his second round. Ironically, Chris Kirk was the low qualifier, another Georgia guy. And then Mitchell was third. They're at Hawks Ridge, which is a pretty fun golf course in Georgia. I was interested to see where they were playing it at. That's where it was.
So just back to golf's longest day, the scores that these guys shoot in these qualifiers, would you tell me how the setups are? Because I know they're not playing tour setups, but they are playing some difficult golf courses. But the scores that these guys shoot, I mean, Chris Kirk 15 under for 36 holes. I mean, this one I think was probably the only one where I saw double digits under par was making an alternate. You just think about that. Like, you got to show up and shoot 67 to even sniff making a U.S. Open at this venue.
Yeah, these guys are good, man. It's the number one thing that, like, I get such a kick out of, and I don't hear it nearly as much these days. But 5-6 years ago, and I'd play golf with somebody first time, but man, you could play pro, and I'm like, you have no idea how much. I'm like, the difference between me and you, those guys are that much more better than me than I am than you. Like, it's ridiculous how good these guys are. And I've always heard, they don't set it up too tough. They don't set it up easy either. I mean, it's usually playing long. Do they like keep most of the pins and relatively scoring sections of the greens? I mean, you're not getting any like real funky pins and stuff.
Yeah.
No.
You also can't have 5.5 hour rounds. Like, they have to get the event done.
But the bigger thing is 36 holes in Georgia or 36 holes out west. Like, that's brutal, man. And it's just amazing to see these scores. I mean, there's 20 guys that shot 7 under or better over the 36 holes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy. So Keith is gonna roll to 69-63 down in Georgia, catch a plane up to Toronto here, and then he's gonna come ball out at Osprey Valley. I mean, that's kind of what we're hoping from a lot of these guys, like you said.
It's interesting that he picked the Georgia one instead of because you can go to any venue you like. Like
yeah.
And he picked that one, which I thought was interesting.
There's a lot of discussion about what's the strategy there, because I always thought this back. I've never done US Open qualifying, but I have made a handful of state AMs in Minnesota. And that was always my thought was I wanted to play the Metro qualifiers that had the big fields and the big qualifier counts, because it was easier for me to get in with like a 72 when there's 13 qualifiers. There's more spots versus if you go outstate a couple hours and you're playing in a field where there's 2 spots. Well, those undoubtedly are going to be grabbed by somebody that shoots 68 or 69, and your 72 is not going to sniff anything. But the guys, but they're kind of saying the opposite here is that you probably should avoid like the Canadian location, because you have tons of tour pros, and even though there's more spots, you still got to go shoot 10 under par, whatever the number is.
Well, you look at that playoff, that I understand the reasoning behind it, when like literally it was, I think, 6 pros. It's like, Jesus, imagine just being an amateur that happens to, wander your way into that. It's like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. What a story. But here you go. You're going back to the well though. You liked Ryan Fox this week, 5,300.
Yeah, I mean, he just, again, it's kind of like with Mitchell, a guy that anytime he gets on this kind of golf course. Now, granted, his approach numbers are not as good this year as I would like, but I'm also a big believer that you return to a venue that you want at. You're going to feel very comfortable. Maybe that helps him get his irons going. And he just drives the ball so freaking far that he's still very good with his wedges. I mean, he's still very good from 150 and in. And he's not terrible from like that 175, 200 plus, but it's nowhere near what we've seen like the last couple of years from Ryan Fox.
Yeah, 6 straight made cuts for Fox. Finished 27th at the Memorial this last week. Huge putting week. But actually, probably the thing that jumps out to me, I have him 6th in my model in short grass scrambling. So yes, he is a big time bomber. But hey, a guy that you say maybe might be a little weak with the long iron play, if he's got the short game dialed on a course that's going to give him a shot he's comfortable with, that could be something that. And I was going to check to see how did that play out last year for him when he. His around the green play, he gained slightly. Let's go back, gained slightly around the green here, but that's I could see a path there for Ryan Fox.
And again, 53-1 in this field. I feel like it's pretty good value.
Yeah, definitely live. And so here, drum roll. I don't have the drum roll music here. The by far number one play in my model this week. My guess is number one play in your heart.
Yes,
Sudarshan Yellamaraju, 6,500 on DraftKings. Are we going to get another native Canadian to win the Canadian Open after waiting 69 years or whatever it was?
I would love it because this is my guy. Everything I've learned about him just makes me, first of all, his last name, which I was like, man, I'm never going to learn how to pronounce that. And then you learn, he basically learned in many ways how to play the game watching YouTube. He turned pro because his parents didn't have the money to send him to college, which is just insane. Like that's literally why he turned pro. Was he was like, well, if I want to continue playing golf, I might as well do it at a professional level. And he's just really good. Like he's been so impressive for a rookie. His game is not what you think. Like when you first start watching, you think he's this bomber who overpowers golf courses. That's not who he is. He's actually a really good putter. I mean, don't get me wrong, he hits it plenty far, but I'm saying he's a good putter, good iron player. He's great out of the sand, which again, you made a good point. He plays par 4 as well. Just a very good all around game. And he's just one of 6 players that are top 40 and, weighted putting for bent Poana greens and above average in sand saves gained in proximity 150 plus yards. And those are 3 of the big categories for me this week. So I did lean on that list a good bit as well.
I love when you take a guy that's got sort of the bomber persona and then you dig in. And again, we're going to go back to the stats I was waiting here around the greens. 4th in short grass scrambling, 7th in sand saves, 9th in birdies or better. And oh, by the way, I have him 12th in strokes gained on my comp course, Memorial Park and Craig Ranch. Wow. And so I think he has the top level narrative of hitting the ball well off the tee and with long irons. And oh, by the way, he's got a great short game to match this up. He has really, flamed out on a couple of events this year where I really wanted to see him play well. Aronimink was one of them where I thought he was gonna show up there. But yeah, I mean, you kind of get this feeling like he's going to flash again. He flashed at the Players. He's going to flash again this year. He had a great start to the season. And why not be in his hometown or in his hometown country or his home country? I don't know where he's from in Canada, but
I like too that he played in this event last year, missed the cut. So, because obviously, again, this is a much bigger deal for the Canadians than it is for other players. It's their national championship. They want to, there's added pressure to that. So you can understand that's probably partly why he missed the cut last year, is just wanting it. And then with all the success he's had in between, making that start last year and this year, I think he's in a very good position to have a big week. And it would make me so happy for a Canadian to win the Canadian Open and to be my favorite Canadian player at this moment.
There you go. Got a couple more picks here. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel almost, but Jordan Smith, where did he show up recently here? It's kind of a guy that
Schwab.
Was it the Schwab?
Yeah.
He's a guy that we always can basically bank on playing awesome in the Open Championship every year. But he's using his PGA Tour status this year to get a little more experience playing stateside. Let's see how he does in Canada. You like Jordan Smith this week?
I love he's a ball striker, man. He's somebody that hits it a mile, but he actually hits it very straight. Very good off the tee, very good tee to green. His issue, like, a lot of
Can't
guys,
putt, can't chip.
he can't putt, can't chip. Exactly. But it helps when you're fifth in green and regulation percentage on tour. You don't do a lot of chipping. And if you, on a venue like this, if he hits it well enough, you can kind of counteract the putting. I like that he's good, on par fours. He's also a top 50 player in sand saves. Like, there are a lot of metrics that work up to it. And again, looking kind of in this mid, because like the long shot plays were rough this week. Like, once you get like past 70-1, a lot of guys that I don't even feel good putting $1 on. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like I'm just throwing away $1. So he was kind of right at the edge of players, and I'm like, I could see it. And I do like that he, again, 13th is not anything to write home about, but it is at least a good finish in good form the last time he started before this week.
And the next guy on my list, a guy that hits it super far, Johnny Keefer, 86-1. Here's the thing, again, you said it. You get past 60-1, and you're just kind of scraping. You're looking for some kind of edge. Yes, Johnny Keefer hits it very far. No, he hasn't really done a ton this year. He did have a 9th place finish at the Byron Nelson. He did have a 3rd place finish at the Texas Children's Houston Open, which is played at Memorial Park. That fits this style of play really well. So maybe if I'm going to lean on comp course history, I have Johnny Keefer 3rd in strokes gained across Memorial Park and Craig Ranch. So again, if that ends up playing out, that's the reason why I got Johnny Keefer on the card. Hits it far, has played this style of golf course pretty well.
I'm worried now that should we have included Yager as he's in this field, right? Because he's somebody who has played Memorial Park extremely well. And I keep bringing that up.
He is. I do have him tied for 3rd in the same category. That's a good question. Jaeger just missed the cut at I didn't catch the venue. He just missed out by a few shots at US Open qualifying. Look, I got Jaeger in a season-long Calcutta. I hope to God he wins the golf tournament this year. This probably would be a good setup for him. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, he's got the same a really similar profile to old Johnny Keefer there. But last on your list, do we get? I said I wanted a Canadian national to show up here. Does Mackenzie Hughes have a path?
I mean, he's just
11-1, by the way. That should be 100.
I was going to say, man, Keith, that's a real ballsy take there, taking Mackenzie Hughes at 11-1 to win the Canadian Open. He's just played well here, right? Like he's 5 of the last 6. He's finished top 35 times, 3 top 15s, 2 top 10s. This venue does scare me because it's not the best for him. He's not a long hitter. He's not somebody that I could see going super, super deep, but there is something about like these Canadians that seem to always be around. And I do, again, wonder if we're going to get a weird leaderboard with the US Open being here next week. Cause I think it was, I forget what event was before the PGA this year, but it really felt like it changed that tournament where even the guys in the field, it felt like a lot of guys were just kind of going through the motions. And we got a really weird leaderboard Sunday.
And that was the truest at Quail Hollow, where it's a tough golf course. And if you're not really motivated to show up and grind through the weekend, then you're right. You are going to mail it in. You're going to give way to somebody that is motivated.
So I was just looking for a Canadian. He's had as good of a record as any of them, including, again, a good finish here last year. So even with the course not being necessarily a great setup for him, he had a good performance last year. And his, still elite around and on the greens, and somebody that doesn't make a bunch of bogeys. He's very good at scrambling from and around the rough. And I especially think he could be somebody that could really contend if it plays a little tougher, than we think. Like, say, instead of the winning score be, 16 to 20 under, it's more in that 12 to 16 under range.
Well, Keith, that gets to the end of our picks for the RBC Canadian Open. I, first of all, am still grinding my way through Fantasy Spin. I had a number of good weeks and now a number of not so good weeks. And if you haven't checked out Fantasy Spin, this is a different kind of fantasy experience. We're not going to do the live spinning here. Jake does that in most of our shows, but we do urge you to check it out. You can get $30 in bonus play if you do use promo code IBT Golf when you deposit at least $10 and play at least one event. And I can tell you, this thing is extremely addictive. It is like spinning a Las Vegas slot machine.
Yes, it is.
In hopes that you can play your fantasy plays for the week. So it is, it's got like a double dopamine hit that I don't even think should be allowed, but it is, and it's really cool. So go ahead.
I do want to just say too, just like with DraftKings, which I constantly try to play, I understand that we all play these things for different reasons, but if your goal is to win money, play those head-to-head ones. They have like, I think, a $9, a $15. Like, yes, you're only going to win 9, 15, whatever the amount is, but then you don't have to beat one person, to where a lot of these others were like, say, I know they have like winner take alls and stuff. I wish sometimes we would think a little bit more, because like on DK,
it's almost like
not sexy.
It's almost like someone has, manipulating the psychology of the human brain in order to make money.
Yep.
Yes.
And if you want to be able to do this kind of stuff and not, constantly going, man, why am I losing money? That's the way to do it. And, treat it more like true gambling. Because again, if you doubled up, on a bet, on betting on a game, you'd be very happy. But for whatever reason, DFS were like, oh, that sucks. I only, doubled my entry.
You sound like a guy that plays a lot of cash games, huh?
Yeah.
Of course. That's how you make money, obviously. All right, Keith, before I let you go, if we don't talk before the U.S. Open next week, you got one guy in mind that you think can grind it out and hang near the top at Shinnecock?
I feel like it's Scheffler's time. And it's been a very disappointing season. I think he would be the first to admit that. Like, all these second places, the frustration's starting to, boil over a little bit. We're seeing some outbursts from him that we haven't seen. And I just think that is the perfect venue for a Scottie Scheffler performance, where he just out ball strikes everybody. And if you look at his approach numbers, particularly, they've been really good the last 6 to 8 weeks. His putter has not been as steady as it was at other times, but I think it's meant to be. And not to mention, don't forget that outside of Rory, every other player who has completed the career Grand Slam did it in the first or second attempt. So that would mean that it's, more than likely, because I think we all agree Scheffler's going to eventually win the Grand Slam. He's going to either do it in his first or second try.
Yeah, it is. It does feel like when it is a bloodbath, like what you're going to get at Shinnecock, the guy that hits the ball the best in the world, better than anybody else, is the guy that hangs around. I work my way down the leaderboard here, or down the odds board, and I can make a case against almost everybody other than Scheffler. And then the other guy that we talked about earlier this week, Brooks Koepka. It's like there's nobody else that's really hitting the ball is good, and you're going to need that to be able to survive the conditions out there.
Are you too young to remember the Payne Stewart Shinnecock U.S. Open? Probably.
Payne Stewart won the U.S. Open.
No, he lost it. He lost. It was the year before he won it at Pine Tree. And
I was there as a 12-year-old. I was there as a 12-year-old at Pinehurst to see Payne Stewart. So that one I do remember.
So the year before that, he really should have won it. They lost the greens basically halfway through the tournament. They got completely baked out. And Payne, being, I think, in the final groups both Saturday and Sunday, kind of got the worst of it. I mean, it was like hitting into concrete greens. And it just was remarkable, as I remember he took that so well. And Payne was always known as a guy that was kind of a hothead, right? Like for most of his golfing career. And it was just so poetic that he would obviously win the U.S. Open 1 year later and then tragically, die just, literally months after that. But it's something I always think about when I think of Shinnecock, is actually somebody who didn't even win there, but Payne Stewart, who took it all, with a grain of salt. I would have been pretty pissed. Like, he should have won that tournament. If you check out the YouTube highlights, I'd highly recommend it, because that was Payne back in the the NFL.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, Keith, looking forward to hopefully winning some money this week and then a fantastic week of golf next week. You can check us out in between media, 19th hole every week. Go win some money. See you later.